we're pleased and honored to be here to share this information with you all. And the title of our talk, as you know, is Aging with Health and Vitality. Is it possible to stay healthy and happy at any age? So we're going to talk about some tips to master the challenges of aging. So we're going to go through a lot of information. And although we usually like to have it really interactive in order to get through all the information, we'd like to save questions and comments for the end to answer, but please feel free to put it in the chat as we move forward. So what will we, So what are we going to talk about on our well-being agenda today? We're going to talk about a path to wellness. We are going to also talk about optimizing well-being and personal potential, stay healthy and happy, as well as mindset and self-responsibility. We will also talk about how you use your body to increase your energy and get healthy, as well as how do we use our communication skills and emotions to achieve your health goals. And we're going to end with how to achieve that powerful mind, body, spirit connection. So what is wellness? Well, the path to wellness, wellness, people have a lot of meanings. They give the word wellness. I'd like to just go back in history a little bit. In 1980s, the medical model was really called into question by people who started to take more control over their own health, and the wellness movement became more pronounced. And at the same time, the World Health Organization sponsored a global health promotion movement, and they were giving more attention to non-medical aspects of health. So encompass more broader things like social, environmental contexts. So we believe wellness is the right and privilege of everyone. Well-being is not necessarily just for the strong, the brave, the adventuresome, or even those that are illness-free. Wellness is never a static thing. No matter what your current state of health, you can begin to appreciate yourself as a growing, changing person, allowing yourself to move towards some higher level of functioning. So I ask you, what lens do you look through? Is it a disease model, which is kind of our history, you're looking at signs and symptoms and development of disease, or is it a whole person model? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So, whole person well-being is what we're going to talk about. Is it more, and we believe it's more than diet, weight, and exercise. Although diet, weight, and exercise is very important, we all know that these can be such challenges for all of us. We are here to show you a wellness roadmap for your aging journey that can create more energy and positivity for you, as well as build resiliency and reduce stress. It starts with self-responsibility and a good self-image. From there, you find some balance, which helps you get a little motivated and make the desired lifestyle changes that bring you optimal well-being. So we've gone with this what is health definition for years by the World Health Organization, which states health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease and infirmity, meaning that, health is when we don't have disease. Well, we think a little bit differently, and so does Dr. Halbert Dunn. He is a wellness pioneer as well, and he looks at achieving more high-level wellness, which is an integrated method of functioning, maximizing the potential of the individual. So not just simply preventing disease. So we talk about wellness as a choice. It's a decision to make and move towards optimal health. It's a way of life. It's a lifestyle you design to achieve your highest potential for well-being. Wellness is also a process. It's developing awareness that there is no endpoint, but that health and happiness are possible in each moment here and now. Wellness is the integration of the mind, body, spirit. We believe wholeheartedly about that. It's an appreciation that everything that you do, think, and feel and believe has an impact on your state of health. So the roadmap of 12 dimensions of wellness we're about to talk about was developed by a wellness pioneer called Dr. John Travis, way back in the 70s. And he's considered an expert in the field. He has a book called The Wellness Workbook that is really a big source for those in the field. So he's got a few diagrams I'm going to run through just to give you an idea of this continuum we talk about, illness, wellness continuum. So when you're in that wellness mode, going towards optimal well-being and whole person wellness, we will be looking at more awareness and education and growth. However, if you're in that illness, that disease model, you tend to get a little bit more focused on disability or symptoms or disease that might be developing. So this also shows another good picture of, we have, a happy lady in a wheelchair on the top, and she's heading, free as can be, a free spirit heading towards high level wellness, although she's got a disability. So what's her health compared to the gentleman on the bottom who's looking pretty fit, probably maybe a marathon runner, but he's got a little scowl on his face and he may have some stress in his life. He's running towards, I don't want to say premature death, but he may not have that full mind, body, spirit wellness. So just some pictures that really can speak 1,000 words. This is also one of the last of Dr. Travis's models that he likes to put out there, that really our state of health right now is really just the tip of the iceberg. And what we really have to do is go beneath the surface and look at some of our lifestyle and behavioral issues, psychological and motivational aspects of our lives, and also the spiritual part of it, because we are mind, body, spirit. So now I'm going to introduce, Lucille will take over and do this next section.
Yes, as Lori's saying, now we want to talk about the fundamentals that you're going to need so you can optimize well-being and personal potential to stay happy and healthy. We want to talk about, what do you really need? What do you need to change? What are the well-being tools that will help you create a healthy lifestyle? We like to pose this question: what if you can change your focus to the possibility of a better way to age? What would that look like? It's interesting because we just did a short piece this morning about aging with fear. So, we want people to age in a very empowered way. So here are the foundational pieces. Obstacles to achieving goals is a desire to cling to the past conditioning, difficulty changing, and limiting beliefs. So we know that changing is hard. We know that there are old conditionings and old expectations and habits that are hard to break. We know that when you want to make a change, that you need the attention, the energy, the persistence, the skills, the practice, the support. And again, if you don't find that, you can become very frustrated and feel as if you're failing. And that's something we don't want to see our clients do, is, feel like they're failing. The other thing is limiting beliefs. If you have old limiting beliefs rolling around in your head, you're listening to those old tapes. For example, you might be telling yourself, well, my mom aged this way. My dad had this disease. I'm just, it's inevitable. I'm going to be shaped like a pear the rest of my life. These are things that we don't have to make part of our story. The ability to change is key. So what are the components of that? Be clear on your goal. Know the knowledge needed to move the needle forward and to stop those limiting beliefs from holding you back. And know the support system that you need to make the sustained change. So what we'd like to say is, as board certified health and wellness coaches, this is really what we do. We don't tell clients what to do. We don't tell them what they should be doing. We use master questions to elicit from them what they feel is what they want to work on and what they want to change. The ability to change is key. We can't say this enough, and I'm going to bring in some points that will speak to what Kaizen steps are. So when we talk about Kaizen, and I think everybody's familiar with the term Kaizen, it actually comes from the Japanese system. They used it in Toyota. Kaizen means to change, Zen means good. So we're talking about a good change. Now, we're talking about tiny steps that can help us change our habits. So you'd wake up in the morning saying, what is one small thing that I want to do today to make a change? It could be think a small thought, take a small action, solve some small problems, bestow a small reward, which we talked about. We're not always good about that, and identify small moments. Why do we do it incrementally? Very simply said, we go to the default of negativity. And when we think about change, we think about fear and anxiety, okay? So we have something in our brain called the amygdala, okay? And we have what we call the sleeping lion. If we change too quickly, we arouse that sleeping lion. And what can happen is we develop fear and anxiety. That's something we don't want to do with the change process. Okay, so then we talk about the cycle of change. And again, just as coaches, we want to present this because we need to see where people are at when they want to change a habit. We have to meet you where you're at. And again, as coaches, we listen to the client to determine, are they pre-contemplative? Are they in action? Do they want to move? Do they not want to move? So what are some of the well-being tools that we use for life? Think about this. Imagine what it would be like to have the tools to live and feel better every day, no matter what your age and no matter what your health condition is. As we said, you can be healthy, looking great like a runner, but your frame of mind is not good, whereas you can be a person with a disability and you can be in a better frame of mind. So you have the ability, because we say that people are whole, creative, and resourceful. The platform that we use is called the Wellness Inventory, as Lori alluded to. This is the original well-being model. It's a well-being program. It's been around since the 70s, and it's used to improve your self-care, reduce stress, manage your energy, improve work-life integration, and help you live mindfully. This is a holistic model. It's 12 dimensions. It does start with self-responsibility and love, takes you through the energy inputs, energy outputs, and then will bring you to a point of transcendence and meaning. It's really called the human operating system. We can use it for chronic diseases like diabetes, hypertension. We know we can use it for people who are dealing with obesity, smoking cessation. We know that 70 to 80% of MD visits are related to stress. And we know that 80% of all illnesses are related to chronic stress. So this model will really help you bring yourself to a point where you can integrate all these holistic components. So where do we start, Lori?
Great. So let's start with our mindset and self-responsibility, which is that first component and dimension on the wellness wheel. And thank you for going through that so well, Lucille. That self-responsibility and self-love is the foundation. If you don't start with that, it's hard to progress through what we sometimes talk about, that wheel. Here we have our mindset foundation. We call it learning and protecting mode. So in order to make changes and reach goals, you have to work on adopting a beginner's mind. Be open and curious, and be careful about allowing negative thoughts to put you in a defensive mindset where limiting beliefs hold you back. We like to look at this learning and protecting mode. You can see the playful child in the diagram on the left side. That's our learning mode. We tend to be a little more exploring in that mode. We tend to expand more. We allow more information to come in and consider. We have that what we call the beginner's mind, and we release limiting beliefs. We say yes more, we love more. In the protecting mode, we tend to hide a little bit, we contract. We think we already have the expert mind. We don't need new information. We're holding on to old stuff. We say no, we got a little bit of fear. So we say if we can kind of switch that up a little bit and get into more of a learning, curious mind, we have a better possibility of changing. So as we age, we become a little set in our ways sometimes and forget what it was like to see things through fresh eyes. So I'm going to just leave this little mantra for us all. We actually used it in another talk this morning about mindset. So when the mind is weak, the situation becomes a problem. When the mind is balanced, the situation becomes a challenge. When the mind is strong, the situation becomes an opportunity. What is your mindset?
Great question.
So that first dimension, self-responsibility and love, what is this dimension? What does it have to do with wellness? So self-responsibility and love form two primary foundations for our personal wellness. Often we put ourselves last, taking care of our loved ones and professional obligations first. If we're not experiencing self-love and we have negative self-image of ourselves or negative feelings about ourselves, we may lack the motivation to practice self-care and make those needed changes. But in this dimension, this is where we learn to discover our own real needs and how to meet them directly. You learn about the power of self-compassion and how it can reduce relentless negative self-talk and strengthen your desire to improve your personal wellness. So a couple of hopefully inspirational quotes here. First one by Tina Lifford. When you know yourself, you're empowered. When you accept yourself, you're invincible. Mark Manson says, with great responsibility comes great power. The more we choose to accept responsibility in our lives, the more power we will exercise over our lives. Accepting responsibility for our problems is thus the first step in solving them. So now, Lucille, you're going to head into...
Yeah, Lori talked about the mindset. But now we're going to see, use your body to increase your energy and get healthier. So now we're going to be talking about energy inputs. Is it possible that we're not optimizing the use of our body to increase our energy during the aging process? So let's look at how we can do that. And we're going to look at the 4 energy inputs. The 4 inputs, as we go around the wheel, are breathing, sensing, moving, and eating. Okay, when we talk about the breathing dimension, okay, this is our primary energy input. Breathing is essential to wellness and often overlooked. Breathing is basically medicine. Again, it's our most essential life process. It's our primary way to bring energy into our bodies. It brings oxygen to the cells. With deep breathing, I mean, you can just read the slide, comes the benefits of calm emotions, decreased heart rate, regulated blood pressure, clearer thinking, and again, so on and so forth, decreasing stress and anxiety. This benefits our entire system. So again, if we're really giving those good deep breaths, we're bringing oxygen throughout the system. Also, it helps you to become more mindful and to do things slowly. This breathing is basically our reset button. If we want to reset ourselves, which we actually were talking about this morning with anxiety and stress, you want to do your breathing. Sensing dimension. Okay, the sensing dimension, we've learned and talked about the 5 dimensions from when we were younger. We're talking about our seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. Our senses are the medium through which we experience our outer world, and we tend to be unconscious of the sensing process, okay? Ask yourself the question, do you ever think that the 5 senses are an important part of keeping yourself safe and healthy? As you work with the sensing dimensions, you will discover how your life can be enriched by mindfully engaging your senses in some of your favorite everyday activities, such as walking in nature, listening to music, taking a bath, taking a shower. You know, if you focus more on your sensory perceptions, you're in the present, you're more grounded. Bringing your senses into your workouts. I mean, when we think about the way we work out, sometimes it's mindlessly. You know, bring those senses in. Are you feeling things? What are you feeling when you're doing those workouts? Sensing, also with this dimension, there's science behind it. The studies point out in one direction that nature is not only nice to have, but it is a have to or a have for physical health and cognitive function. Science shows us that we need 120 minutes a week in nature for the optimal benefit. And again, for exercising, go on a regular sensory nature walk. You know, there was a classic study done, and this was actually done in PA in the 70s, where surgical patients who had their gallbladders removed were either looking at nature or they were looking at like a brick wall. And they found that the people who were looking at nature had a better recovery period, used less pain medication, and less negative effects. So nature does work and help us to heal. The other components of the sensory dimension is how to protect your senses as you age. You know, when you think about it, our hearing may become impaired, so we want to avoid being around loud music, wearing ear protection, headphones, you know, things of that nature. We want to maintain a healthy weight and manage our blood pressure, because that can affect our senses, our blood sugar level, our tactile ability. We know that blood sugar can, you know, affect our nerve endings. Hearing aids, we know that if people do have a hearing deficiency, they should really think about hearing aids, because we know with cognitive decline, that has been associated with diminished hearing. We want to eat well, because we know what we put in our bodies can affect our senses. Poor diet has been linked to cataracts and macular degeneration. Regular checkups, regular eye checkups and hearing and skin checkups. And of course, spending that 120 minutes a week in nature, you know, getting the benefits from that healing, you know, being in that healing environment. The eating dimension, you eat what you are. We often hear you are what you eat, but you eat what you are, and mindful eating is fantastic. It's a great success. We want people to become more aware and identify the real reasons why they're eating, or if they have poor eating habits. We always use the 5-4-3-2-1 rule, where we teach that. So then when people sit down to eat, they're thinking about that. They're slowing down. Changes in our appetite and eating habits also change as we age. We know that we can lose, you know, our taste, our smell. That could be happening naturally or from medications that we're taking. We could be overeating. We could be stress eating. We could not be eating because we're eating alone. We're isolated. So that, you know, again, what are our true beliefs about food, and how does it affect our health outcomes? Do we feel that food is nourishment, or do we feel that this is just something we do because, you know, we're bored or something like that? So like breathing, eating is one of our primary sources of metabolic energy. We need that. We need that to sustain our lives, no matter what age we are, especially as we're aging. We think about, what are the foods that we're putting into our body? Are they processed? You know, food has a big impact on our lives. As you focus on the eating dimension, you begin to appreciate the true value of eating a predominantly plant-based diet. You know, we know the benefits of plant-based as opposed to process. And we absolutely know that true self-care, eating for physical, mental, and emotional health and well-being is really the goal. You know, some people may have to do a diary to track the food that they're eating and see if it's associated with their moods, their feelings, and their habits. Okay, eating dimension. Again, you eat what you are. Here are some quotes just to ponder. Your beliefs about what you're eating and how you're living your life are far more important to examine and change than the actual activities of eating and exercising. The mind-body connection has clearly been established in medical and scientific research. Your beliefs are thoughts, and your thoughts are energy. And that was Wayne Dyer. Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. Hippocrates. Okay. We're going to look a little at what does it look like when you're following joyful eating? Okay, and you know, people might be thinking, wow, joyful eating, what could that be? Well, these are some excerpts from a book by Paul Puresol, who's a PhD, and basically, you know, outlined you eat with other people with whom you like, if you can. Again, as we're aging, you might be eating alone or maybe in a group setting. You eat slowly, you eat mindfully, you talk only of pleasant things when you're eating. When you eat, you don't write, you don't work, you don't talk on the phone, so you really shouldn't be distracted. You take time after you eat to be quiet and rest, allowing your body system to adjust and to do the digestive process. You don't need to change how you feel. You know, again, are you doing emotional eating? And what are you eating? You focus on the taste of the food. That's where your senses come in. You taste, you chew, you swallow, and you finish what you're chewing. Again, because older adults might have issues with their swallowing ability. And again, you don't want to be drinking alcohol or inhaling cigarette smoke while you're eating. The moving dimension, and the mantra here is do it your way. Do what makes you feel good. We're going to talk about the benefits of moving. Okay, we know that moving has great benefits for our cardiovascular system, our muscle strength, our blood sugar control. Again, moving is a basic expression of our life energy. We were made to move. That's how our body was constructed. Maintaining a dynamic balance of movement and rest is essential to health and well-being. Better body mechanics to create better balance and avoid falls. We know that with the aging process, our gait changes and we might be more apt to fall. So that's a big safety issue. Movement, a new concept, the exercise snack. You know, the idea of a short, easy form of exercise that gives you similar benefits, but not longer sustained workouts. So where we thought we had to work out hours, we can do this in minutes. Easy ways to integrate movement into your daily life. And also what we've seen from the blue zone studies, that these people who were centurions, they were moving naturally every 20 minutes. And again, in our fast-paced lives, we often find that we become too sedentary. You know, sitting is the new smoking. You know, we want people to move. We want people to get up. So what's your favorite type of movement? Do you like to walk? Do you like to lift weights? Do you like yoga? Do you like dance, Tai Chi, CrossFit? Anything that's good for you. Movement can improve your strength, your balance, your power, and your metabolic health. And do what you love. Okay. Again, exercise snacks. What does that look like when we're talking about exercise snack examples? Here we're going to put up 5 minutes worth of an exercise snack. It's 1 minute increments. Here you can do 60 seconds of jumping jacks, 60 seconds of burpees without doing the push-ups, 60 seconds of high knee running in place, 60 seconds of walking in place, and 60 seconds of squats. Again, do what you like. It's your own program. If you don't like high impact, you can do Tai Chi, yoga poses, and stretching. And of course, work out with a friend. Okay, so mastering communication.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about mastering communication and emotions to achieve your health goals. So, you know, we're spinning around the wellness wheel a little bit, and we go from the top around clockwise. And now we're heading into the area we call the mind dimensions. And now we're looking into the energy output. So we just ended up, Lucille so nicely put in how we put energy into our body through moving, eating, sensing. Now we're going to talk about thoughts, feelings, style of communication, and play work balance, where we can lose some energy. So we have to be careful we keep that in balance. So achieving mastery of these wellness dimensions allows you to conserve the energy you put into your body and effectively get the health and life desires you choose. A lot has to do with thoughts, and your thoughts can make or break you. They do have power. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So We'll start with the thinking dimension. Um, and, our mind can be our greatest friend or our greatest enemy, right? At times we find ourselves falling into a cycle of negative thinking that seriously impacts our personal well-being. Other times we can't seem to turn our minds off when we like put that head on the pillow. It just doesn't stop. So how can we live in such a way that our thinking truly serves us? So this thinking dimension really focuses on the power of thinking, how it relates to physical and mental health. And by delving into this dimension, you will develop creative options for using thinking to improve your well-being. Here you learn how to be mindful of your thinking. Just being aware of your thoughts is half the battle. And it enables you to make positive choices for personal well-being. New research has shown that the brain has the capacity, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, to continuously change throughout your life. Thinking affects a lot. It affects how we act. It affects our overall health. It affects the function of your immune system. It affects everything. But very interestingly, remembering an unpleasant experience can reduce heart function by 5 to 7%. Amazing. But forgiveness, appreciation, and love can actually improve your heart function. Very good. I just wanted to share this great quote from a thought leader I follow. And it goes like this: how to stop aging. Stop thinking decline. Aging is about negative emotions, resistance, and old age limiting beliefs. Okay, let's move on from that. So a little more about the thinking dimension. Have you found yourself dwelling on mistakes that you make or insults you felt? Are you drawn to drama and bad news? How much of your days focus on negative occurrences or thoughts? Are you uncomfortable with compliments or positive events? If you answered yes, the reason may be what is called the negativity bias. It's a real thing, because neuroscience reveals that our brains are wired to focus more on the negative aspects of life than the positive. Negativity has a bigger impact on our brains than positivity. Pretty amazing, huh? This negative bias can affect everything: your health, behavior, decision-making, and your relationships. It's been shown that negativity can lower your immune system, so it behooves us all to address this negative bias. But there's hope. There's hope. Researchers have shown that it's possible to rewire our brains. It may not be easy, but with a little awareness and a change in some of our daily practices, we can create more positive thinking and gratitude and minimize anxiety and worry. So let's reverse that formula for happiness and success and create more positive thoughts, because everything can change. So I referred to neuroplasticity. So what is that? Well, as adults, we didn't think this for years, but science now shows we can actually create new neural pathways in our brains with the 4 major characteristics of neuroplasticity. One is energy, physical or mental exercises, the right chemicals, the right food, drugs, the time, and the right environment. So no matter how old a person is, spending time in nature, as we talked about before, with daily walks over a prolonged period of time actually does develop new neural pathways. The same applies to brain exercises, yoga, or developing other new positive habits. We are never too old to learn a new skill, and it's good for us and our brains. So now we move on to the feeling dimension. Feelings are your emotions. Feelings are not the same as thoughts, but they are deeply intertwined. But most of us really give priority to our thoughts about a subject and ignore our feelings. It's no wonder that many of us are not in touch with our feelings. But this dimension focuses on becoming more aware of the marvelous gifts of feelings. You learn here how to improve your level of emotional intelligence, the ability to identify and manage your own emotions, and to recognize emotions of others. This can create optimism. It can create better health, aid in recovery from disease, surgeries. Here you also you can learn to use your breath to become calmer and more centered when you're experiencing high emotions like anger and anxiety. So it is also a very important dimension. Our next dimension is playing and working. We spend the majority of our time focused on work and daily tasks with too little time allowed for play. And oftentimes what passes for play is, for adults, I should say, for adults is more likely to be escape activities rather than engaging in true play. And balancing work and play enables to recharge our batteries and supports personal health and well-being. In this dimension, you learn to recapture the spirit of play, the true spirit of play, and play that can restore balance to your life. So it's important to think about, even when you're a child, think about what your favorite ways to play were, and create new ways to play that might bring a little more joy, a little more optimism, and a little more recharge. So let's ask ourselves these questions on this dimension. What energizes you? What is pleasurable to you? What makes you laugh or lighten up? And what were your favorite forms of play as a child? So the communication dimension is next, a very important dimension. Effective communication, we all know, is important, especially to age well. Communicating allows us to share our internal reality of thoughts and feelings with others and to convey our wants and needs. Extremely important. However, oftentimes we experience some challenges in our communication, don't we? Because it's related to our judgments, our assumptions, and maybe not fully hearing what some other person that we're having a communication with is actually saying. So here's where you learn to improve your listening skills and to better understand the breakdowns in communication that occur. You also want to create more positive internal dialogues, because what we constantly tell ourselves plays a big role in influencing our personal well-being. Poor communication can really have an impact on our well-being. If you can't communicate your needs or wishes and you can't speak up for yourself as you age, you may not get the proper health care. You may not get your needs met. Your wishes may not be identified. And especially in the aging realm, it's so important to discuss your wishes with your family, make it known, all the details you want. You can then set yourself free a little bit. And, we all know the healthcare system is very complex and fragmented. And unless you have the ability to communicate in an assertive way, I think oftentimes in the healthcare system, we see a lot of passive communication. Yes, doctor. Yes, doctor. Whatever you say, doctor. And it's important to learn those communication skills that let you speak up for yourself and be an effective advocate for yourself. So just to give you a little bit of a formula for good communication, here is a way, pathway to connection is, we talk about exploring more, trying to understand more, ask questions, communicate what your needs and wants are. Pathway to disconnection is when you get into a little bit of an interrogation, ask a lot of questions, you judge, you try to fix people. A little bit of an example is, let's say your husband, oops, you forgot your anniversary. Using the I and the we messages are really important. So in that example, a path to disconnection is like, I can't believe you forgot our anniversary. A more effective way is, oh no, I'm sorry. You forgot our anniversary. So it's blaming, it's pointing the finger out. And a better way to do this is, I'm really disappointed and saddened by the fact that you forgot. So that's just a little bit of a tidbit on how we can effectively communicate better.
Okay, very nicely done, Lori.
Thank you.
So at this portion, we're going to bring together all of these components, and we're going to really be looking more at the transcending part of the individual, how to achieve that powerful mind, body, spirit connection for ultimate health and well-being. How do we bring all these dimensions together to holistically bring all these things together to bring good health as we're aging? So we're going to talk about intimacy dimension. The human brain is a social organ, and we know that as we age, we could be becoming more isolative. We're literally hardwired for relationships. Scientific research has shown that the brain, the mind, and the relationships are all interrelated. There are many kinds of intimacy. When we talk about intimacy, we're talking about friendship, family. Although, when we think of intimacy, we think of sexual intimacy, but there are 12 types of intimacy, whether it's romantic or friends or loved ones. And all of these things come into play as we age, what we have, what we lose. It expands our possibilities for deepening our connection and learning to respond to each other, to appreciate, to respect, and friendships are the keys to building intimacy in a relationship. Again, we know that intimacy is essential for good health and well-being and to have good social supports. And we know that loneliness and isolation can contribute to poor health. We see that a lot with our elderly population. Finding meaning dimension, again, is something I think that we all deal with as we're growing older and as we're moving along the spectrum. Who are we? Why are we here? Where are we going? What do we want in life? And what is real? Again, according to Socrates, the unexamined life is not worth living. So, we reach a point where the key defining element of being human is our search for deeper meaning, the search for answering those basic questions, contemplating them. Questions that bring us closer to, as Lori mentioned, what do we want at the end of life? And are we communicating that effectively? Are we experiencing things more deeply and meaningful in our lives? And are we able to speak up for ourselves and be more fully human? A meaning dimension is something we don't want to bypass as people are aging. It's a very important component. And what is true? So the benefits of finding meaning and purpose. Okay, so you want to have a more balanced, purposeful, and rewarding life. Again, incorporating all of these components, the self-responsibility, the energy inputs, outputs, this is all helping us to be balanced, purposeful, and to create a rewarding life, even as we're going on the age spectrum. In contemplating on what is truly meaningful to them, many people are discovering that experience and expressing love central to the fulfillment of their life. As Lori mentioned, love is a big component in our lives. And as we can cultivate that, we replace that fear and anxiety. That's often where we have to come back to self-love, self-responsibility. And we know with that, you get improved health and happiness. Often, just when we think we may have mastered the lessons, we notice that the bar gets raised higher. So even as we're moving along the life spectrum, we still want to move along, challenge ourselves. The thing is, we don't want to get bored because, neuroplasticity, we can create new synapses and we can learn new things. So improved health and happiness does depend on that. Transcending dimension. Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. And the quote here says, "The intellect has little to do on the road to discovery. There comes a leap in consciousness, call it intuition or what you will, and the solution comes to you and you don't know why or how." And that's from Albert Einstein. When we think about the transcending dimension, that dimension basically takes everything we've incorporated through self-love, energy inputs, and all of this communication, work, play, and brings it all the way up to a transcendent state. And again, when you think about that, we're talking about the mind-body experience. Oftentimes when you talk about aging and vitality, people may look at just the physical components, but there's such a component where you want that person to reach transcendence. Transcendence has many faces, including the experience of being in a state of flow. We always call that the state of flow, where it's just happening mindlessly. So really, what does it involve? Using all of the dimensions to develop intuition, because our intuition is so important for us, and it does direct our health and our wellness. Pay attention to the mind-body connection for your knowings. We are more capable than we think, and we do have self-healing capabilities. As you focus on transcending after your journey through the first 11 dimensions, you will discover that this is where you experience the synergy of all the dimensions, and they all work in harmony so that we are living our best life. We can achieve this state no matter where we are on the illness-wellness continuum. So you can have people that have a chronic illness, and yet they can reach that transcendence. We want to thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank Laura. We want to leave you with a visual of the wheel so you can see all these dimensions. Again, we were your speakers today, Lori Gardner, myself, Lucille Plantamoli. And we do want to let you know that we do have a Facebook group. It's a midlife women. It's actually for midlife women that want more from midlife and beyond. So they can join a free Facebook group. We're called the Magnificent Midlifers. And we're also doing a live coaching program online. It's a group called, or a program called Midlife Momentum Group Coaching that's going to start on October 13th. And we're making that available here. If anybody is interested, they can always send us an email or go to our website and just let us know if you're interested. But it's been our pleasure to be here.
Thank you all for listening, and Laura for having us here today.